Welcome back, everybody, to the Nole and Deep Dish Show, broadcasting to you from the Man Cave. My name is Nick, and with me, my co-host, Cody. Ready for tonight's show, Cody?
Yes, I am.
Well, we've got a good one for you tonight, folks. Our second edition of our segment that questions the sanity and intelligence of athletes everywhere. Are you shitting me? Then, the second part of our NFL preview. Cody and I will give you our predictions and insight on the AFC East, AFC North, AFC West, NFC East, NFC South, and NFC West. After that, the Nole and I will give you our picks on this weekend's top college football games. Finally, our top 5 for this week will examine who the top NFL fantasy running backs are. Cody, what do we have for headlines?
All right, just a couple headlines today. Last night, number 9 South Carolina was romped by Texas A&M 52-28. The new quarterback for Texas A&M, Kenny Hill, put up over 500 yards passing in his first ever start with Texas A&M. Tony Stewart spoke for the first time since his accident that resulted in the death of Kevin Ward Jr. and said that it will affect him for the rest of his life. Stewart will be racing this weekend in Atlanta. Now, I had a third, subject that I was going to put in the headlines, but I figured let's put this into the Are You Shitting Me segment. Seattle Mariners catcher Jesus Montero is rehabbing on the Mariners single-A team, where in a game Thursday night against the Boise Hawks, a lot went wrong. While walking into the dugout from the field, a Mariners cross-checker yelled for him to hurry up. Then the scout sent an ice cream sandwich to Montero in the dugout. Montero came in 45 pounds overweight and was pissed enough to go into the stands with a baseball bat and the ice cream sandwich and throw the ice cream sandwich at the scout. He shoved the bat into the guy's face while cussing, saying motherfucker, other threats and things like that. Montero repeatedly cussed and threatened the guy. He was finally hauled away by the coaches. Now, like we talked about this before the show, and it was kind of like an Are You Shitting Me on both sides. The scout constantly, heckling this guy. He was speaking in Spanish part of the time, and another part of the time he was speaking in English. It's crazy to me.
Well, when you first told me this story before we came on the air, I really was on Montero's side until you told me the second half of the story when he went up into the stands. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, you told me that he almost threatened this guy's life.
He basically said, if this was Venezuela, you'd be dead, motherfucker. And as he was walking away with his coach, and I that's something you're not going to find anywhere else. But this guy, he's a big leaguer down rehabbing right now,
right?
And
yeah, he was a starting catcher.
Yeah, and what a way to come into single A, jump into the stands and go after one of your own team's scouts.
Well, first of all, this scout should be fired.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, he was heckling the guy walking into the dugout, telling him to hurry up.
Now, he was a scout for this guy's organization?
That's what I was told. He was a cross-checker for the Seattle Mariners. And he was basically speaking in Spanish, saying rapido, or whatever they say to make the guy hurry up, because this guy hasn't been cleared to play yet, so he was a first base coach.
Oh, rapido.
Yeah, or whatever. I don't speak it. So the guy's coming in from the first base walking, just, kind of chilling, and the cross-checker was yelling at him to hurry up. So when he gets into the dugout, he sends him an ice cream sandwich. I mean, seriously.
Right.
And it's because the guy came in 45 pounds overweight, it pissed him off. So he's basically, the cross-checker was like saying, hey, you're a fat ass, hurry up and lose some weight. Yeah, damn right it would. But I don't know that I would go into the stands, throw my ice cream sandwich in the guy's face and put a bat there in his face. I don't know if I'd do that.
I don't know if I'd go into the stands with a bat. Now, the throwing of the ice cream sandwich, I don't see anything wrong with it.
I might have done that from the dugout and hit the guy maybe from a distance. I don't know where he was sitting.
I'd have been like, you eat it.
Yeah, this is for you. No, I seriously, I think that it was crazy on both parts. I mean, the cross-checker, I can maybe understand him yelling for him to hurry up into the dugout, but sending him an ice cream sandwich taunting the guy, that's crazy to me. But then this guy, he's a nut job.
You know, it's weird. Our segments of Are You Shitting Me, kind of, it always starts with one guy. And then it always ends up being two guys.
Yeah.
Because our last one that we talked about with Josh Gordon we ended up talking about
Johnny
Manziel and all the partying he was doing before camp. And right here you go. At first, when you told me this story, the Are You Shitting Me was on the Scout.
Yeah.
And then you told me the second half of the story, and now it's also on Jesus Montero. He took it now I understand him being upset. I really do. Because that's just unprofessional.
Yeah.
But to go into the stands with a bat and be like, if we were in another country, you would be dead. That's almost, if not suspension, to threaten a person's, even though the scout should be fired, absolutely. To threaten, to vaguely threaten somebody's life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's borderline release.
I think it was just something in the heat of the moment, but
it probably was. But at the same time,
I tell people all the time when I'm pissed off at like a Burger King and I'm pissed off about my Whopper.
Yeah, but at the same time, Jesus Montero is not a minor leaguer. He's a pro starting catcher, and he should know better. Obviously, he doesn't. That when you told me this story, I was laughing the whole time through. It was amazing to me because the story just kept getting better.
Yeah, it definitely did. So that's the Are You Shitting Me segment. We cut a little short today, but I can't wait until the next story comes up, for Are You Shitting Me? Because this thing last time was pretty good. Last time was pretty good. This time was awesome. So I don't know what's going to happen next time. But let's talk some football. College football's tomorrow. Pro football starts in a week. So we're going to finish up with our preseason preview of the NFL. Let's start off with the AFC East. And I'll go ahead and start off with who I think is going to be, or how I think they'll rank, and then I'll let you do that, and then we'll go over why. I think in fourth place in the AFC East, it's going to be the Jets. I think they go 6-10. In third's going to be the Dolphins. They'll go 7-8. Second, I think the Bills will actually figure something out. Now, this is depending on the Sammy Watkins injury, how injured he actually is.
Right.
But I was actually originally I did this before the Sammy Watkins injury, and I thought they were going to go 8-8, finish second, but that could change. And then the Patriots, obviously, I think they're going to win the AFC East. They'll go like 12-4.
Yeah, personally, I think it's the Patriots and then everybody else in this division.
Yeah.
I have the Jets finishing in last place. Now, I did this a little bit different. I didn't predict an exact record. What I did is I picked a range of how many wins they could possibly get. So I have the New York Jets in last, possibly getting from anywhere from 4 to 7 wins. 7 is the absolute high end. I don't even think they'll get that.
Yeah, I agree.
In third place, I have the Buffalo. Actually, it's kind of a tie. I have both Miami and Buffalo ranging from 6 to 9 wins.
Yeah.
So, it really doesn't matter that either of those teams aren't going to the playoffs. And then first place, I have obviously the New England Patriots, and I have them ranging from 10 to 11 wins.
Well, the Patriots, they get Gronkowski back. Let's see if he can stay healthy
now,
for the year.
Now, is he going to be healthy for the first week or two?
I don't know. I think that he'll be able to come in and maybe play a little bit to try to get in rhythm.
Belichick is always veiled with his injury status.
Yeah, but I think week 2 he'll be able to come in full force. I think Shane Vereen is back also, he was injured a lot last year. Mm-hmm. So I think they're getting some weapons. They also just picked up another tight end. I can't remember the name of the guy. They literally just picked him up in the last couple days. But he's supposed to be a decent guy.
I kind of like the running back tandem of Vereen and Ridley.
Yeah.
Ridley's going to get you 10 touchdowns. He's kind of hit or miss, though. Some games he'll average like 3 yards a carry, and some games he'll average like 5.5 yards a carry. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get with Ridley. It depends on what defense he's going up against. He has a little bit tougher time with obviously the better defenses, and the top running backs in the league are good against every defense.
Yeah, I think the Pats secondary is going to be a lot better this year too, because they added Revis and Browner, so they should get a little bit better. They did lose LeGarrette Blount, which isn't a big deal because you just named off the running backs they have. I don't think that's a big deal. They got rid of Aqib Talib, Brandon Spikes, so those guys are kind of key guys that they lost. But I think with Rivas and Browner, the Talib loss isn't going to be that big of a deal, and Brandon Spikes, I'm sure Bill Belichick will figure something out. I'm going to run through just why, like...
Just a quick note, the Buffalo Bills are an interesting team to me.
That's what I was just about to say. I was going to run through them quickly because I think that the thing with the Bills, I think their defense is going to be pretty stout. But they have a lot of questions on offense because, I mean, E.J. Manuel, he was injured last year in his first season. Yeah. He missed 5 or 6 games. He actually played decent in those games that he was there.
Now, the question we have to ask about the Bills is how the loss of free safety Jarris Byrd.
Yeah, he's a Pro Bowler.
I mean, they lost him. I mean, that's going to affect their secondary.
It'll affect their secondary. I think that the rest of the defense is so strong. I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference.
That D-line with Mario Williams.
Yeah, they've got guys all over the field. And I love the Bills just because they have like 7 or 8 guys from my college team. I mean, they're like loaded Florida State.
There's a shocker.
So, and they added Sammy Watkins in the draft.
I love Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins, if he's not injured, that guy's quick. He's a game changer. And their biggest problem, seriously, is figuring out the quarterback position. Last year when Manuel played, he was a 60% passer as a rookie, which is pretty decent for a rookie, and he had a better touchdown than interception ratio. So he threw more touchdown than picks. So I think that a full year in the system, another year in camp, and if he can stay healthy, he'll be able to do well enough to get them in the right track.
Well, they're going to have to rely heavily on him because if you look at the other quarterbacks that they have, it's really not impressive. I mean, they have Thad Lewis and Jeff Toole.
Yeah.
Jeff
Toole did okay in some type of relief a little bit, but he's not a guy that they're going to be able to hang their hat on to win games.
If E.J. Manuel gets hurt, they're screwed at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Now,
they have good running backs.
I was just going to say, the obvious big plus for their offense, besides Sammy Watkins, if he's healthy,
C.J. Spiller,
is the tandem of C.J. Spiller and Fred Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them last year, I think each one of them had 800-900 yards.
Yeah. They definitely have. They have a lot of options, and like I said, they have a bunch of great guys that were stars in college, and if they can just put everything together, they can be a pretty good team. So that's what I think about the Bills. I don't really think we need to talk much about the Dolphins or the Jets. The Jets suck. Geno Smith needs to get his crap together. The Dolphins, Joe Philbin, I think, is going to be on the hot seat if he can't step it up. Their offensive line is completely different because of the incognito issue from last year.
Well, the Dolphins, they're always one of those tweener teams that they have the talent to be good, but they just never put it together. Like, they'll have a run every year of like 3, 4, 5 wins, and then they'll just crap out.
Okay, here's what I will say. Last year, that Dolphins offensive line allowed 58 sacks on Ryan Tannehill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they lost Incognito and Jonathan Martin because of the whole issue they had last year, so maybe their offensive line, they picked up a couple guys.
Oh, they
got Brandon Albert.
Yeah.
And they have Jawan James that's a rookie, and Shelley Smith. So hopefully that changes things, because if Tannehill gets hit 58 times a season, he's not going to have a long career, and he's not going to win games.
Now, I kind of like their tandem at running back, too, of Moreno and Lamar Miller.
Yeah. Picking up Noshawn Moreno in the offseason was awesome. But, yeah, they're like you said, they could have a huge run if that offensive line is different than it was last year.
And they also picked up Cortland Finnegan at corner. So, I mean, that's a little bit of an upgrade.
Yeah. So that was that was our talk on the AFC East. I think next maybe stay in the AFC and go to the AFC North.
Before we go to the AFC North, just a quick question for you before we switch over. How do you think Michael Vick is going to do this year for the Jets?
I think he's going to be a backup, and I think that if Geno Smith doesn't screw up, then Vick will stay on the sideline. I mean, everything I've read, he's kind of taking the position as the backup.
For me, I think they rushed Geno Smith last year. I think he wasn't a quarterback that could just step in there and do it.
Definitely not. They didn't have any other options.
They had Sanchez. I think the best option for them this year...
butt fumble.
Well, yeah, but I think the best option for them this year is because he's so injury-prone, Michael Vick would actually be a good guy. I think they should almost... not split, but kind of do like a 70-30, keep Vic in there 70% of the time.
I would never run a 2-quarterback offense.
But what I'm saying is they really don't have... I mean, Vic is so injury prone that you can't rely on him 100% of the time.
I'm a trial by fire guy. Throw Geno Smith in there, see what he can do, give him 3 years. This will be a second year. If he's not progressing, then get rid of him and find someone else.
But here's my argument to that. The Jets are not going to be good. Okay? I mean,
No.
I know they picked up Eric Decker.
So get him some experience.
I know they picked up Eric Decker, but who knows how he's going to be without Peyton Manning. Vic, if you're going to have a bad team, why not have Geno Smith learn a little bit underneath Michael Vick and then progress to where Smith is taking the majority of the reps by the end of the season?
I don't know how much you're going to learn from a guy that ran a lot and didn't really win a lot of playoff games or Super Bowls. So
I understand, but he is a 34-year-old veteran. He does know his way around the league.
He's a vet. I think that all the stuff Vic can teach him, he can also teach him from the sidelines. So I don't know. Jets really, I don't think even need that much time to talk about. They suck all the way around.
Let's transition into the AFC North. Who do you got?
Okay, in fourth, the Cleveland Browns. I think that's easy. I think they're going to go somewhere around 5-11, if that. Then I have the Steelers coming at 7-9, the Ravens in second, 10-6, and then I have the Bengals winning the AFC North, going 11-5, somewhere around there.
I have the Cleveland Browns finishing in last, ranging from 4 to 6 wins, so right where you have them. The Pittsburgh Steelers I have coming in third, ranging from... I mean, this division, for me, this year is actually a little bit up in the air. The top 3 teams could shuffle, depending on how things rattle out.
I think the Bengals are a little bit better off than the Steelers and Ravens.
Well, I have the Steelers in third, ranging from 6 to 10 wins. That's a pretty big range because you don't know what you're going to get in that division. It's a black and blue division. You don't know who could jump ahead. Baltimore I have in second, ranging from 7 to 10 wins. And then in first place I have the Cincinnati Bengals, ranging from 8 to 11 wins.
Yeah, see, I have the Bengals finishing first. Last year they finished first. They lost the AFC wild card game to San Diego. That's like Dalton's biggest issue is he can't win a playoff game. I think Marvin Lewis is setting up something really nice, in Cincinnati. They have great receivers, great running backs, great tight ends. Their quarterback's a great regular season quarterback.
And they have a decent backup quarterback.
Their defense is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Their team didn't even switch that much. There wasn't a lot of pieces that left or came in. They lost Michael Johnson, their defensive end, Anthony Collins, an offensive tackle, Kyle Cook, a center, and Andrew Hawkins, a wide receiver.
They also lost James Harrison.
But they picked up Darqueze Dennard, who was one of the better cornerbacks in college last year. They got Jeremy Hill in the draft. They got Jason Campbell. So they got some good guys in the draft and everything like that. I think they're just going to be really similar to last year, but Gio Bernard, especially since they just got rid of Benjarvis Green-Ellis, I think Gio Bernard's going to take off this season. So that's why I have them at first.
Even when they had Green-Ellis, even though I do like the law firm of Benjarvis Green-Ellis, I like Gio Bernard. I think that even last year, Gio Bernard should have been the number 1 guy.
The only problem is he's small. I'm afraid he could get injured easily, and I don't even, I just don't know.
And you got to love the tandem of Dalton throwing to A.J. Green.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love A.J.
all he's got to do is throw the ball up. A.J. Green's going to get it.
Yeah, they got Tyler Eifert, your guy from Notre Dame.
And that's a great
tight end. So they have a lot of young talent.
Well, they have a great tight end combo. They got Jermaine Gresham and Tyler Eifert.
Yeah, so I mean, that's why I have them at number 1. Ravens. I think the Ravens could be the only team in this division that takes over the Bengals. I don't think the Steelers, because the Steelers are really young on defense. Mm-hmm. I think maybe in a year or two they'll be able to get in there. The Browns, I think they don't know what's going on. Mike Pettine's, he just doesn't have a clue.
Now,
I think that they're screwed.
And now, you had Roger Goodell come out yesterday and say they were upholding the suspension for a full year of Josh Gordon, which, you know what, he's received a lot of flack for, and rightfully so, because you give a person who beats his wife...
I disagree with this completely.
...in Ray Rice 2 games,
There was no policy on domestic violence.
There was no policy.
I agree, Ray Rice.
How can you give someone who was caught on camera beating his wife and dragging her by the hair 2 games, and then the next day say, well, we're upholding 16 games for a guy that smoked pot?
Okay, I agree that I agree that Ray Rice should have gotten more than 2 games. Don't get me wrong there. Josh Gordon, this is multiple times with substance abuse. There was nothing the commissioner could do. I mean, it was in the rules.
It was in the books.
So it's like the guy can only smoke weed and take pills so many times.
I'm not arguing with the fact that because he's done it multiple times he got a year. What I'm saying is that
I just think the comparison's stupid.
Do you see the hypocrisy though?
No, because there's no rule in the rule book about domestic violence until now.
Now here's the
I think the first time is a 6-game suspension. The second time is a lifetime ban.
Now that I was going to say that is the saving grace for Roger Goodell, because they didn't have anything on the books. They really didn't have a precedent for it.
Right
now.
And it was Ray Rice's first offense of anything in the NFL. So.
He did come out and apologize. I mean, Roger Goodell came out and apologized.
Yeah, he said he was wrong.
Absolutely, and that was his saving grace.
And I agree that Ray Rice should have gotten more than 2 games. Trust me, I'm not for a wife beater. But there was a lot of stuff that we didn't know. He wasn't married to this chick before this happened. They ended up getting married. She didn't press charges. You don't know what happened in the elevator. I'm sorry, if the bitch is slapping him in the face all over the place, maybe he should have done something other than knock her out. But you don't know how it all happened. So I don't know, you don't know, no one knows what happened before it.
How awkward was that press conference with his wife sitting right next to him?
It was pretty strange. Yeah, I'm sorry for beating your ass, honey. I don't know.
Baby, we need to do this press conference because I need to tell the whole world with you right next to me how sorry I am.
Yeah. So I think the Ravens, they're always good on D.
Do you think that's going to affect Ray Rice this year?
No, I think...
Like his mental game?
No, I don't think it's going to affect him at all. He's a pro. He'll be fine.
Why don't we, do you want to...
Well, if we're going to switch it up, let's switch to AFC West. I was just going to say the Ravens, they got a great D. They got a couple young pieces, and, let's do the AFC West and finish up the AFC. I think 4th, the Raiders. I think that's kind of obvious. Then you have the Chargers in 3rd, Chiefs in 2nd, and Broncos in 1st. I think that's a pretty obvious division.
See, it is... I'm really liking the direction of the Raiders now.
Especially with the running back tandem of McFadden and Maurice Jones-Drew.
Did you see Jones-Drew in the preseason?
Yeah, he looks like a beast.
He's tearing it up.
Yeah.
So for McFadden to be alongside, I mean, they're calling it thunder and lightning already.
But the problem is when you have Phillip Rivers and Peyton Manning in your division, and then you got Alex Smith, who's, a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's not a bottom feeder. You have too many passing options for your game to be running. You're not going to win like that. These other teams in this division, they're just going to be high-scoring teams. And then the one team that doesn't have an elite quarterback, in the Chiefs, they've got an amazing defense.
Now, I have Oakland finishing last with ranging from 6 to 9 wins.
I don't have them even getting to 6 wins.
The reason being for that range of 6 to 9 wins is you look at the guys that they added in the offseason, like Justin Tuck, Carlos Rogers, Lamar Woodley. They really retooled that defense, and they picked up a nice wide receiver complement to Denarius Moore and James Jones. I like that pick. Maurice Jones-Drew.
Matt Schaub, after what happened in Houston, is going to be able to come in and do anything?
Matt Schaub is a transitional quarterback. He is just there to fill the position for a year or two.
But Terrell Pryor, who was their starter last year, I assumed they were going to let him grow into something until they could either draft someone else or pick someone up in free agency.
Well, now they did draft in the 2nd round Derek Carr from Fresno State, who I think
that's what I'm talking about with Terrell Pryor. I don't see why you don't just stick with him instead of paying a guy like Matt Schaub.
Well, I don't think they had to pay a premium for Schaub. I think they got him kind of like a mid-level deal.
But doesn't he get like the vet minimum at least?
Yeah, but
that's a lot higher than paying Terrell Pryor.
Well,
He's still in his rookie contract.
At the same time, Schaub is a decent guy in terms of a guy that has starter experience, playoff experience, that can get Derek Carr ready for either the end of this season or next season, probably next season. Derek Carr, I actually, even though his brother, David Carr,
Didn't work out.
yeah, and was the number 1 pick in the draft. That was his name, David, right? He's been.
I don't even remember. He played for Houston, I think, and
But I actually like him better than his brother.
I do too.
Even though he was drafted in the second round, you had so many quarterbacks in this draft that kind of got lost in the shuffle till the second round. Now, so I have Oakland finishing last. Third, I have the San Diego Chargers ranging from 7 to 10 wins. Then second, I have the Kansas City Chiefs ranging from 8 to 10. And then in first, I have the Denver Broncos ranging anywhere from 11 to 14 wins.
I think that, like I said, I think this is such an easy division to pick just because, I mean, the only team that's even anywhere...
It's one of the toughest divisions if you think about it. You have 3 teams in this division that were in the playoffs last year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just think that it's obvious by looking at these teams. I think the only team in this division that even challenges Denver would be the Chiefs, and that's because of their defense.
Don't sleep on the Chargers. I'm telling you.
Dude, okay. They lost what? LaRon McClain and Derek Cox. They only got Donald Brown. They don't really have anybody. But you have to understand, they have Danny Woodhead. They don't really have anybody to throw to other than Keenan Allen.
Well, they throw to Danny Woodhead.
Yeah, they have 2 players, Danny Woodhead and Keenan Allen. Who else is Phillip Rivers going to throw to?
Antonio Gates.
Come on, man. I had him on my fantasy team
Antonio
last year. Trust
Gates,
me, he was not putting up stats.
He's not the Antonio Gates of old. I'll admit
Exactly.
that. But what I'm saying is he's still going to get you 60 to 70 catches.
Yeah, but how many yards? The guy's going to go 3 or 4 yards upfield, catch a pass, and he's not outrunning people. He's not trucking people
anymore. Like I said, he's not the old Antonio Gates. But you have options, and especially.
But you don't have playmakers.
You bring Donald Brown in because Ryan Matthews is so injury prone. Ryan Matthews and Donald Brown, the teams in this league. I mean, it's obviously switching more to a passing league, but more teams are going to the tandem running backs because running backs are so fragile that to have a tandem is nice. You can switch off. Defenses have to adjust, and it's San Diego. I'm not picking. Obviously, I'm not picking to win this division. I don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs, but they are a team that you need to worry about.
I'll say this now: I guarantee the Chargers don't make the playoffs. I guarantee they don't win more than 8 games. They're not, especially in this division. Like I said earlier, playing against Peyton Manning, Phillip Rivers, and Alex Smith, they do not have the talent offensively to outscore these teams. And they don't have the talent defensively.
They made it last year, and it was the same division.
Now, obviously, I'm telling you, Denver, it's just not going to happen. The Chiefs are going to kill it this year.
Now, obviously, Denver upgraded their defense.
Yeah.
They got DeMarcus Ware, Aqib Talib.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean...
And the only people they lost were Cromartie and Eric Decker and Noshawn Moreno. Now, those sound like big names, but Eric Decker, I think Peyton Manning made him. Noshawn Moreno's on the bottom end of his career. Cromartie's a good cornerback, but they replaced him with Talib. So, and they picked up Emmanuel Sanders.
See, I like, they do have Monty Ball.
Mm-hmm.
I did really like Noshawn Moreno, but he had injury issues.
Yeah.
So they got rid of him. You talked about Eric Decker. Here's the thing. Peyton Manning might have made Eric Decker, but I think they actually upgraded when they picked up Emmanuel Sanders.
The only problem that I see happening is with this Wes Welker issue of the 3 concussions over less than the last year.
That's serious.
If Wes Welker gets injured to where if he has another concussion and the NFL says you can't play this year or whatever, or he just isn't able to, that's a big blow to their offense because Wes Welker's that guy.
He's that possession
that
guy.
You can hit at any time. He's going to be open. He might not be a big play guy anymore or anything like that, but if you need that first down, he's there.
He's one of the best route runners in the NFL.
Yeah, and the dude's small.
Not the best route runner.
The dude's small, but he's got big hands, he's fast.
And if he's healthy, he's going to get you 90 catches.
That could be a downfall just because Emmanuel Sanders replacing Eric Decker, he might not be that familiar with everything. It'll take 5 or 6 games for him to get into the thick of things.
He already connected a couple times with Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
And
so after a few games,
it looked good. I like that Thomas Emmanuel Sanders combo on the outside, and if Welker can stay healthy, keep him on the inside. And then you got Julius Thomas.
Yeah, they've got a lot of weapons, but I just think that the Wes Welker thing could be a huge blow just because, like I said and you said, he's a possession guy, and when Peyton needs him, he's going to be there. And I think the Broncos are going to be hell-bent on making this season even better than last season. because of what happened in the Super Bowl. And Peyton's on the very end of his career.
You saw how motivated the Denver front office was, like I said, with all those defensive pickups.
Yeah, well, they knew that they had to do something. Their defense just wasn't adequate last year.
And they'll have Von Miller for a full year.
Yeah, he's not injured. He's not suspended. He's not having issues, hopefully, this year. So you got Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware with the Cowboys, he was kind of on the downfall with them, but I think that was a system thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they were changing defensive coordinators. They were switching 3-4, 4-3. They were switching everything. Mm-hmm. So I think coming to the Broncos, I think him and Von Miller, that line's going to be great. I think that the pickup of Talib, I think they're going to be pretty good. I really do.
Why don't we move over to the NFC East?
All right, let's do that. So I'll let you go first. I was more focused on the AFC, so I'll let you do this, and I'll get my thoughts together right now.
Okay, all right, fair enough. On the fly, I have the Dallas Cowboys finishing in last place, not just because I hate them with a passion. Sorry, Cowboys fans, but I just can't stand Jerry Jones. I have them ranging from 5 to 7 wins this year. In third, I have the New York Giants ranging from 6 to 8. In second, I have the Washington Redskins ranging from 7 to 10. I think they're going to surprise a few people this year. And I have the Philadelphia Eagles. They're kind of the clear-cut class of this division. I have them ranging from 9 to 11.
Okay, I will agree with you. The Eagles are going to win this division. I think they're above everybody. Chip Kelly changed this offense up. They're going to run tons and tons of plays. I actually have the Cowboys finishing second.
Really?
I do. And one of the reasons why I have them finishing second is I think the Redskins are going to be third. I think that Robert Griffin III is going to lose his job this year. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be coming in. He had a great preseason. RG3 had a bad one. RG3 is coming off injuries. I don't know. I think that the Redskins are going to have a transitional year.
You know what? The reason I'm saying watch out for.
Hold on, and I got the Giants.
Okay,
I have them finishing in fourth because they had a god awful year last year. They're making a lot of changes. They're trying to insert this up tempo. Yeah, they're trying to insert like an up tempo offense. They want to run like, I don't know, 20 more plays a game than they did last year. I don't think it's going to work with Eli at the quarterback position. I see the Redskins falling off with RG3, and Kirk Cousins going to I think it's going to be a transition at quarterback there, and I just think the Giants don't have their shit together.
Everybody's so down on RG3, and I don't think it's just time yet to write him off. I don't think you can write him off yet. A guy that is that athletic and that talented.
He gets injured too much.
I think I agree with you. What I was just about to say was if he can somehow stay healthy, that team is a big shocker. Look at their 4 wide receivers. Okay, they picked up Deshaun Jackson. They have Pierre Garçon on the other side. They picked up Andre Roberts from the Arizona Cardinals, and they have Santana Moss as their fourth receiver. And that you have, and then you have Alfred Morris in the backfield. Alfred Morris came out of nowhere 2 years ago, and now he's going to be a perennial 1,000-yard rusher. And with those weapons on offense, it's just a matter of their O-line protecting everything.
And I think that's a big issue. And the way I'm seeing it, first off, I don't usually put a lot of stock into preseason games.
Right.
I
don't either.
I just don't. But this preseason, Kirk Cousins looked on point. He was making his throws. He was making really accurate, great throws. RG3 looked skittish, and he's coming off. Isn't this his second injury in the NFL? I think he's just too skittish. I really just don't see him being able to play this.
He needs
this
to learn not to scramble as much.
He can't help it. He's got the Johnny Manziel disease. Well, I guess RG3 was first. But I think that he can't help it. He wants to be the guy that moves around in the pocket, and if he has to, he'll run.
I think RG3, when he was a senior, or I don't know if he was even played that.
His last year
at Baylor, the guy threw for a ton of yards.
That was a system, dude.
If he can get back to that somehow, if he can get his mindset where pass first, run second, then I think he can stay healthy, and that team is one of those tweener teams that could have a good upside.
I think when you look at RG3's college career, he was in a system. You look at Bryce Petty now at Baylor, and Bryce Petty's putting up stats galore. But the guy, I think it's just like Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel put up all those numbers. Then Kenny Hill last night broke Johnny Manziel's record for...
He had 511 yards passing.
Broke Johnny Manziel's record for a single game passing in his first ever start. So it's a system thing in my mind. Kirk Cousins came from Michigan State, and the dude, he looks great to me. I think the Redskins are going to have a transition this year. I think Giants are going to stay horrible. I think the Cowboys have a bunch of talent. Des Bryant, Jason Witten, Tony Romo,
Romo's going to choke.
Running back name.
DeMarco Murray.
DeMarco Murray. I think they got
have
a lot
talent,
of weapons.
but Tony Romo's going to choke. He always does. And not only that, they lost, even though he may have been on the downswing of his tenure with the Cowboys, they lost DeMarcus Ware, they lost Miles Austin,
Miles Austin wasn't doing it anymore in Dallas.
I understand he probably needed a change of scenery, but at the same time, Miles Austin was still better than your second op. I mean, I like Terrence Williams, I really do, but Miles Austin, if he was healthy, that's another thing. These guys got to stay healthy, and they're not, and that's probably why they got rid of Miles Austin. But Miles Austin, when he was healthy, produced like a madman.
Yeah, I see the Cowboys, they're on an upswing in my mind. I think Jerry Jones is willing to spend the money to get what position players he needs.
I just don't think their defense is gonna.
I think they'll be a little bit upgraded
their
this year, even though they lost to Marcus Ware. I think they'll be fine.
Their defense is very average to me this year.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see. So, what do you want to move next in the NFC?
Well, you know what? I think briefly we need to talk about the Eagles real quick.
Is there much to talk about? I mean, they're gonna
offense,
run people over.
LaShawn McCoy alone can beat a defense.
And they picked up Darren Sproles.
They picked up Sproles.
So you have those guys in the backfield.
You have not only do you have two quality running backs, you have one in LaShawn McCoy, who is you picked up Darren Sproles, and he's basically LaShawn McCoy light.
Yeah,
because he can
quick, can catch the ball.
He'll grab you 60, 70 catches. Now, he's obviously, I don't think, going to do that being the backup to LaShawn McCoy, because LaShawn McCoy's going to get the majority of the time. Now, you could split those two and have them be a tandem. Like I said, with the other teams that we've talked about, teams are going to tandem backfields. The fullback, unfortunately, is a thing of the past.
But I think the thing about the Eagles also, with the two running backs that they have, they're fast, they can catch the ball, they're able to run routes for running backs. I think that's the best way to go. I don't think that getting these bruisers at running back is the best thing. I mean, maybe a bruiser and then a guy that can catch the ball, but with these two guys, I mean, you never know. And it could be a play action where they fake the handoff to McCoy and then toss it over to Sproles.
Not only that, I'm a big fan of Nick Foles.
Yeah, I think he's been underrated, I should say.
I mean, people talked about him a lot towards the end of last year because he did so well, but I think that everybody talks about McCoy and Jeremy Maclin and Darren Sproles. Nick Foles is not a quarterback to sleep on.
No.
I think Maclin, because of Foles, is going to have a big year this year. And I think Philadelphia just runs away with this division.
I agree completely. Let's move on to the NFC South.
Sure.
This one I can go off the top of my head really easily. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're going to be the bottom end of this division. I think there's no question about that. I actually have a toss-up at second and third because the Atlanta Falcons had a really big issue last year, but I like a lot of what I've seen from them. I really do. I think that last year was kind of just a weird year for them. And then the Carolina Panthers, I really have them close for second and third. I think the New Orleans Saints with, Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham, all those guys, Colston, I think they're just above everyone else in that division.
See, this was the hardest division for me to pick. I actually yesterday just got the Sports Illustrated NFL preview in the mail, and they actually picked Tampa Bay to win this division.
They're out of their
mind. I was
minds.
Shocked because I don't see them winning this division.
They still have Glennon as their quarterback, right?
No, they have Josh McCown. Now, he's 34 years.
The guy from the Bears.
He's 34 years old, and he knows Lovie Smith, and he's probably going to be a system guy with Lovie Smith. He's just a stopgap for a couple of years before they get, somebody else, because he is 34. I have the Falcons. This was the toughest division. You know what? I think if you picked any one of these teams, you wouldn't be stupid to pick any one of these teams to win this division. I don't see how. Now, that being said, I don't see how Sports Illustrated could pick Tampa Bay to finish first. They're going to have a good team. They're going to have a much better team than they had last year. But I see Atlanta finishing. I mean, if I had to pick, I have all of these teams possibly winning at least 9 games. Now, I have Atlanta ranging from 6 to 9, depending on how their defense can hold up. I have Carolina ranging from 7 to 10. I also have Tampa Bay ranging from 7 to 10. And then I have New Orleans winning the division ranging from 9 to 11.
Well, see, here's my thing. I'm really struggling to believe that Tampa's going to, pull away from New Orleans, Carolina, and Atlanta. I think Carolina right now, they're having a little bit of an issue with Cam Newton. He's got a fractured rib, so we'll see how that goes for him. Everyone keeps saying he doesn't have a lot of wide receivers to throw to, but he just picked up Kelvin Benjamin from Florida State. The dude's been showing up in preseason games, making amazing catches, which has been his problem in the past, drop balls.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been doing that. He's a big guy. He's almost 6'6". Mm-hmm. He's just a big guy that you can throw to anywhere on the field. And he's Olsen. Fast. He's got Greg Olsen. Atlanta, you have Julio Jones and Roddy White. You got Matt Ryan, who's a good quarterback. He's not a bottom feeder for sure. The guy's a good quarterback in my mind. Now you have Steven Jackson, who's a little bit injury plagued, but you have Devontae Freeman from Florida State, who has also been showing up great in preseason. Who I think is going to play a decent role for Atlanta, and their defense is pretty good.
Now, do you think that they're going to be able, in any way, to replace the safety valve for Matt Ryan with the loss of Tony Gonzalez? Because he was the safety valve for Matt Ryan.
I think when you have Roddy White, that guy's a vet, and you have Julio Jones, who's a young freak, and then you have guys like, Steven Jackson's a good running back. He even if he stays injured and he's not able to play, Devontae Freeman, even though it's his rookie year, the guy can catch, the guy can block, he can run, and you saw that in his preseason games, playing first-team reps against first-team defenses. I think he'll be fine, even without Tony Gonzalez. I really do. I think, if he had Tony Gonzalez, that would make this team even more elite, mm-hmm. and maybe rival that number 1 spot.
Yeah.
I just, right now, Drew Brees is the best quarterback in that division. He has the best tight end, maybe in the entire NFL. And he's got some great guys to throw to. So,
well, you said, you were talking about how Cam Newton might not. People are talking about how he doesn't have any, targets or anything. And
excuse me,
he does have Greg Olsen, and they did pick up Jason Avant. They picked up Jericho Cotchery, who aren't going to be a number 1 receiver by any means, but they're serviceable guys who will catch you 40 to 50 balls.
They're above average guys.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm having such a hard time with Carolina and Atlanta, and I think either of those two teams could take over New Orleans. I just don't know if everything goes the way it should for New Orleans. I just don't see them, not finishing in first. I do think you'll get a wild card team from this division.
Oh, absolutely, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The last time that they were really good, who was their defensive coordinator? Lovie Smith.
Yeah, but it's a transition. This is his first year.
This is his first year with Tampa.
So it's going to be a big change, man. A lot of times when you change your head coach, it takes time.
You picked up Michael Johnson. You picked up Josh McCown.
Now, I'm going to tell you something that pisses me off about Tampa. They got rid of my boy Lonnie Pryor from Florida State. I knew that guy. Great guy, great running back. They're missing out. So Tampa, even for that reason
where did
alone,
he go?
He just got released yesterday. So he hasn't been picked up yet.
He was one of the cuts.
He was drafted by Jacksonville. Jacksonville traded him over because I guess they had too many running backs at that point because they still had Maurice Jones-Drew. And then last year they traded him to Tampa, and the reason I'm saying don't sleep on Tampa is because I think with Lovie Smith, who
I am very familiar with because I'm a Chicago Bears fan, and he was the coach for a long time with the Bears, and their defense was always pretty good. Their defense is going to be better this year. They have a good wide receiver combo. They have Vincent Jackson, and then they picked up with the 7th pick overall. They picked up Mike Evans from Texas A&M.
Yeah, he's going to be a great wide receiver too.
And I mean, you also, you have Doug Martin, who knows if we're going to get the Doug Martin of 2 years ago or not. Last year was just a flop. And then you have, you have Mike James as his backup, who's a decent backup. I don't think he's, the tandem back like the other teams we've been talking about. And then you have Josh McCown and Glennon. So I mean, they're not as bad as some people are making them out to be. I think they will probably end up 8-8.
Yeah, I don't know if they get to 8 wins.
I mean, I have them ranging from 7 to 10. So I mean, obviously both of us think that New Orleans is going to win this division. So why don't we move on to the NFC West?
All right, yeah, man, that sounds good.
I have the St. Louis Rams finishing in last, ranging from 6 to 9 wins. I actually think St. Louis is going to be a much improved team over last year, which isn't really saying much. Well, you know what? You also have to take into account Sam Bradford. He's out for
tore his ACL.
He's out for the year, and I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to have Sean Hill, who is a perennial backup. But I mean, he started at what I think like 13 games in the NFL, so he's not a stranger to being a starter. But I think that's going to drastically hurt. I think this was a make or break year for Sam Bradford anyway.
Yeah.
Then then I have the Arizona Cardinals finishing in third, ranging from 7 to 10 wins. I have the San Francisco 49ers in second, ranging from 9 to 12. And then I also have the Seattle Seahawks finishing in first, ranging from 10 to 12 wins.
I agree completely with you on this division. Seattle, I think, is going to win the division again. I think San Francisco is going to come up a little bit short.
I'm a little down on San Fran this year.
Colin Kaepernick really didn't show me much last year. He didn't have what it took, in my eyes, for the year. So I think this division's kind of easy to read. I think it's a really tough division, but with Sam Bradford out, you have to put him the Rams in fourth in the division. And the Arizona Cardinals, they're getting better, but they're not on the same level as San Francisco and Seattle.
No.
And Russell Wilson is just, I mean, the guy's not like a stats beast or anything,
but very efficient.
He's efficient. You got Marshawn Lynch in the backfield. If Percy Harvin can stay healthy and get a full season in, their defense is incredible. So I don't know.
Their defense. You know what? Last year's Super Bowl, I was one of the very few people. I picked Seattle to beat Denver by 7 points. Which is a big spread to pick a team by in the Super Bowl, and I picked them by 7. I didn't think they were going to win by 35.
Right.
That defense, every time Denver got the ball, 3 or 4 yards, and then they would get smacked. I mean, Seattle was just putting the hurt on Denver, and Peyton Manning didn't have an answer for it. He just didn't. Seattle's defense is that good. Now, they did lose a couple of pieces, but, I mean, they always draft well.
Right.
San Francisco, they got Kaepernick a couple of more targets. They picked up Stevie Johnson from Buffalo. They also picked up Brandon Lloyd, who's a serviceable wide receiver. So you're going to have some targets for Kaepernick.
They still got Anquan Bolden.
They got Frank Gore.
And they got Frank Gore.
Vernon Davis. Let's not forget about Vernon Davis.
Just signed his contract along with Kaepernick. So
I'd put Vernon Davis in the top 4 or 5 tight ends in the league.
Yeah, so they've got targets on offense, and their defense is pretty, stacked. I just don't.
Something about them, it just doesn't do it for me this year.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I put so much stock in Kaepernick last year, and he just didn't show up as big as I thought he would. Maybe he turns it around.
You know what I think it was?
Don't know.
I think there was so much hype last year on Kaepernick being this giant star from what he did the year before, finishing out that season, that he couldn't live up to that hype. So when he fell short, people were like, well, what the hell's the matter with him?
Right.
I'm not a fan of the guy by any means, personally, but he is a good quarterback, and he stays relatively healthy. So, I mean, San Francisco, are they going to win the Super Bowl? I don't think so. But
I think they make the playoffs.
They'll make the playoffs, definitely. But just something about them just doesn't. It's not doing it for me this year. So I definitely have the Seattle Seahawks winning that division.
That's the preview, right?
That's the preview. Now, one little last bit for our preview. Super Bowl. Who do you got?
I think it's a rematch.
You think it's a rematch?
I think it's Denver, Seattle.
Who do you have winning?
I actually think Denver wins this year. Reason being is I think they added what they needed to add on defense. I think that going into last year's Super Bowl, they thought they were just going to run over Seattle, and I think everyone kind of thought they were going to run over Seattle, and I think they're going to be more prepared for this game. I think Peyton Manning he's the best quarterback in the game right now.
I think he's the best quarterback of all time.
He's up there. If he's not the best,
he's better than Favre.
A top 5. I mean, I would say top 3 actually if he's not the best. I just think that this is going to be Denver's year. As long as Wes Welker stays healthy and they don't lose any big guys and Peyton stays healthy, I think it's a rematch.
You know, I agree with you on the rematch. And as much as I want to pick Seattle again to win the Super Bowl, Denver saw what Seattle did last year, and they made their defense even better. I see Denver winning the Super Bowl. Now, this is preseason. When we get to the playoffs, I might have a different prediction.
Right.
But as of right now, I have Denver, like you, beating Seattle in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think John Elway's doing a great job with the team.
Oh,
yeah.
John Elway, listen, on the field, off the field, John Elway's a winner.
Yeah, this dude's going to be like a major Hall of Famer from playing.
I mean, he's already a Hall of Famer as a quarterback.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be a Hall of Famer as an executive. I think the guy's just all around.
He'll be one of the few guys that gets in twice.
Yeah. So that's our NFL preview. We're gonna do some picks because tomorrow's the start of college football was last night with the Texas A&M South Carolina, but tomorrow's the opening Saturday for college football.
Now, did you see that beatdown coming last night?
I didn't. I honestly thought, even though South Carolina lost, a lot of its defensive talent, and they lost Connor Shaw, who's the best quarterback they've ever had. I think Steve Spurrier is such a great coach, and he does, so well recruiting. I thought that they were going to be. I really thought that. I think I had them preseason 12, 13.
I mean, Texas A&M just.
But I didn't even have Texas A&M in my top 25 in the preseason poll that I made. And Texas just came out and just killed.
I mean, they railed
South Carolina. It was like 52-28. I mean,
that quarterback was on fire.
And they did it at Williams-Brice. Yeah. So it was just nuts. I mean, I don't really know. And their defense, Texas A&M's defense looked a lot better. They were last in the SEC last year, behind Kentucky by 50 yards per game.
That's crazy.
Behind Kentucky. So their defense only gave up 300 or 400 yards compared to last year where they would have gave up 500 or 600 yards. Their offense went off. They had over 650 yards total offense, and I think they could have gotten more if they weren't up by so much. And I don't know. It was a great game. And then Vandy lost to Temple.
Yeah.
SEC, and then Boise State. They lost to Ole Miss, but Ole Miss struggled with them until like the fourth quarter. I mean, I think Bo Wallace threw 2 or 3 interceptions in the first half.
Well, I think we both said we didn't see a lot for the SEC this year.
Yeah, and coming into the season, everyone was like, yeah, the SEC is going to cannibalize itself because from top to bottom they're so great. I'm seeing right now, Ole Miss, they were saying was going to be a game changer in the SEC West. Ole Miss struggled with Boise State without Chris Peterson as their coach, without the quarterback from a few years ago was so great. This is not the Boise State of old.
No.
It's just not. And they struggled with them. And Boise State had a chance early on the 1-inch line to take the lead, and the guy ran sideways instead of straight up. It was crazy.
Obviously, we haven't seen Alabama or LSU or Georgia or Auburn play yet.
That's the top half. I'm talking about the entire conference.
But in terms of the entire conference, I see them as a down conference this year. And
Alabama just named Blake Sims their quarterback over Jacob Coker, which I think is insane because I think the guy originally came to Alabama as a running back.
And you didn't have, even though we both see the SEC having a down year this year, you didn't have this, but I did. I don't have one of the SEC teams making the college playoff this year.
I think after tomorrow, I'll be able to see a little bit more when I watch the Alabama game. South Carolina, well, after I watch the Alabama-West Virginia game to see how the quarterbacks do, and then the Georgia-Clemson game to see how Georgia does, because I think those are the only two teams in the SEC that have a really good shot of making it out. Auburn's schedule's too hard. Florida, I don't think, is rebounding enough. And then the rest of the teams are kind of dopes. LSU might be good, but they're really young. I don't know, man. I might agree with you after I see some of the play tomorrow. After South Carolina, they lost by a lot to Texas A&M.
I'm going to let you pretty much take this segment here.
Well,
I'll give you my pick,
Yeah.
but you give me the analysis. You're our college
I'm
football
not going to
guy.
give super amounts of analysis because the games. I mean, I'll give some, but we'll start off. Penn State at UCF, but it's not really here in Florida. They're going over to Dublin, Ireland to play this game.
So it's a neutral site.
This is going to be the first game on tomorrow. It starts extremely early. It even starts before college game
So
day.
they're playing the Ireland Bowl this year.
And there was a lot of issues with this game because they weren't sure if they were going to be able to play it because there was a volcano in Iceland that was supposed to erupt. I don't know if it has yet or not. And it was going to reroute all traffic from the U.S. into Ireland because I guess the ash or whatever would prevent planes from flying from like New York to Ireland, which is where it usually happens.
And that volcano in Iceland, I mean, that's, that was the team from the Mighty Ducks. So I mean, it's coming.
But we have Penn State versus UCF in Dublin. UCF is a 2-point favorite. I'm gonna let you go ahead and tell me what your pick is, and then I'll go through what I think.
So UCF is a 2-point favorite?
Yes.
I have UCF winning this game, and I have them winning by 6.
All right, I have UCF winning the game. I think that they're probably going to win by 6 or 7 points. They might win by a touchdown. Penn State's in a transitional year. They have Vanderbilt's coach. The guy's name slips me right now. Oh my God, he's bald with glasses, and I can't even think about it.
But they have Bill O'Brien went to Houston.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien went to Houston, so they got a new coach. Penn State does have a great quarterback. UCF did lose Blake Bortles, but it's a toss-up game. I just think UCF will pull it out. The next game, number 5, Ohio State. They're playing at Navy. Ohio State's a 15-point favorite, even without Braxton Miller. Braxton Miller's out for the season with a shoulder injury. So who do you have winning that game?
I'm sorry, what's the spread on that one?
15 points. Do you think that Ohio State can cover the 15 points, or do you think Navy?
Oh, I think Ohio State will cover the 15.
Okay, so you're thinking they win by more than 15?
I'm guessing 24.
Okay. I have them not covering. Navy, I think, runs the triple option.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State just lost their quarterback. They didn't really show much on defense last year. I don't know how much Urban Meyer's turned around the defense. I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's that much of a difference. But preparing for a triple option team like Navy at Navy is pretty difficult. I think Ohio State wins the game, but I don't think they win by more than 15. Then we have West Virginia playing at Alabama. Alabama's ranked number 2. Alabama is a 25.5-point favorite in this game.
They're not covering that.
You don't think Alabama covers 25.5?
Not against West Virginia. And even though West Virginia may be down this year, there's still a Power 5 conference team, and they're not like a bottom of the barrel Power 5 conference team. So I have Alabama winning by, let's say, 13.
Yeah, I think that they're not going to cover the 25.5 points, mainly because right now they have such a big issue with quarterback, and I don't know if they could. I don't know if running the ball they're going to get a 25.5-point lead. They have great running backs. They have a great receiver in Amari Cooper.
They always have a good O-line.
Their O-line is a question this year because they lost some guys. I also don't know how well their secondary is going to be because last year their secondary was porous. And you have Clint Trickett, who came from Florida State to West Virginia. He's starting this year for West Virginia. I don't know what they're really going to have as far as wide receiver talent or running back talent, but I think they keep it under the 25.5 points. Alabama, I think, is going to win this game. I don't think
I think they're going to win too. I just have it by 13.
I think it's going to be maybe a 3-touchdown win, especially
just under the 25.
Yeah, especially with, I think they're experimenting between the two quarterbacks. I think they're going to play both of them, which might throw the wide receivers out of sync. I think Blake Sims is going to make some mistakes. I just don't see it being more than 25.5 points, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. I just don't see it.
Okay.
Now, what I think is the best game of the day, I think number 16 Clemson going between the hedges, playing at Georgia, is going to be a great game. Last year, I'll let you pick first before I go into the analysis.
Well,
UGA's favored by 7.5 points.
In Georgia.
In Georgia.
You know, I'm actually going to pick Clemson.
To win or to cover?
I'm picking Clemson to win. I'm going to pick Clemson by 3.
Okay. I agree. I choose Clemson to win this game. They lost Taj Boyd, they lost Sammy Watkins, but they have one of the best defensive lines in the country, led by Vic Beasley. All around their defense is pretty great. I mean, they show up. It's a veteran defense. So UGA also lost their quarterback, Aaron Murray. I think it's Hudson Mason coming in. They lost a lot of talent on their offensive line. They have Todd Gurley, which is one of the best running backs in the country, but going against that Clemson defensive line, I think Clemson's going to be able to stuff him. And I don't know, man. I think Clemson's going to win by either a field goal or a touchdown. Clemson won last year against UGA when UGA was at full health. First game of the season before injuries. It was at Clemson. They won by, I think, a field goal. And I actually think that this Clemson team, with the defense being so much better than it was last year, isn't going to suffer from losing Sammy Watkins and Taj Boyd.
You know, Georgia, for me, every year, is one of those teams who is always a good team, but they never really go anywhere.
Yeah, they had a chance to win the SEC 2 or 3 years ago against Alabama, and they fell short. They haven't won a championship since 1980. I like Georgia because it's basically Tallahassee North. Mark Richt coached under Bobby Bowden. Now they just picked up Jeremy Pruitt for their defensive coordinator from Florida State. They try to run their program like us. So I'm a fan of Georgia, but I just think Clemson's defense is going to be top-notch this year. So I see them winning by 3 to 7 points. Now, my favorite game of the night, even though the best game is probably the Clemson-Georgia game, my favorite game of the night is number 1, the reigning champion Florida State Seminoles playing at Jerry Jones World in Texas.
Jerry World.
Jerry World against Oklahoma State, unranked. They were a top 30 team. They didn't make the top 25, but FSU's favored by 17.5 points.
I have Florida State winning by 31.
I have Florida State covering the 17.5 points. I don't want to be cocky and throw out some crazy number because it is the first game of the season. I'm actually nervous for this game. Even though we're, I think, the best team in the country, I get nervous because I don't know what these new guys are going to look like. We lost Kelvin Benjamin. We lost Devontae Freeman, James Wilder, Kenny Shaw. So we have a lot of guys in offense we're replacing, but we still have Rashad Green, which was our best pass catcher last year. We still have Nick O'Leary, which is the best tight end in the country. We have probably the best offensive line in the country. We have the Heisman winner at quarterback. We have the Lou Groza Award winner at kicker. Our defense is stacked. We've had a top 10 recruiting class for the last 4 years, so I say we're definitely going to cover the 17.5.
Here's why I threw out the ridiculous number of 31 points. Jameis Winston, even though I'm not a Florida State fan, and I'm not a huge fan of Jameis Winston.
No, you talk shit about him all the time to me.
I do. But Jameis Winston shows up on the big stage. And what bigger stage besides the national championship than Jerry World? There's going to be 105,000 people watching that game in the stadium. You got the 200-foot friggin' LED video boards. It's a huge stage for them to open the season, and Jameis Winston on the big stage always shows up. And I think he's going to have a monster game. I think that defense is going to tear apart Oklahoma State. Even though Oklahoma State typically is a good offensive team, Florida State.
They lost 3 of their starting wide receivers, which is going to hurt their offense. But
Florida State is in another class from Oklahoma State. Okay,
yeah.
So 31 points. I don't even know if that's conservative.
Well, last year I think we averaged beating every team for the entire season by 35 points. So, and we played teams like Clemson, and we were 5-0 against top 25 teams.
Yeah.
So, I think that that's not outlandish.
All right, for you as a Florida State fan, give me your final score.
I didn't really want to do this, man, because
Tough.
Because
You're on the spot.
okay. I think that our defense is going to nail Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State gets 7 points against our starting defense. Whenever the second half rolls around towards the fourth quarter and we bring in our backups, they'll score another 7 points. I think Oklahoma State has 14. Florida State, I think 49, 52, somewhere around there. So I'll just say 49-14.
Now, I have to keep into account that I said 31 points. So I'm going to pick this game 54-23.
I don't think Oklahoma State scores 23 points.
It's possible. They always have a good They're an offensive team.
They've got a good quarterback, but they lost like their
I
three best
understand
wide
they lost three
receivers.
wideouts, but in a system like that, it's
Here's
a system
Here's
thing.
the thing you got to realize: we have the best secondary in college football, and they're not going to be. I don't believe they're going to be able to air it out against our guys.
Well,
We are the Seattle Seahawks when it comes to secondary of college football.
I agree.
And I don't think that Oklahoma State's running game is going to be enough.
And it pains me to say how good I think Florida State is. They're incredible, but at the same time, I think the wideouts for Oklahoma State, it's almost a system wideout thing because Justin Blackman, look at him. He really hasn't panned out in the NFL.
Well, he smokes a lot of weed.
I mean,
and he's in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So he hasn't really had a quarterback to throw to him, so I don't know if we could say that.
But look at how good he was at Oklahoma State.
Who was throwing to him back then? Oklahoma State was like a top 10 team.
You can't even remember who was throwing to him. That's why I'm saying
I don't really follow Oklahoma State.
That's why I'm saying
they were a top 10 team, so they had a good team.
Well, that's why I'm saying the wide receiver position at Oklahoma State is like one of those system things. Like Penn State has the middle linebacker, you know what I mean? Or Notre Dame has the tight end. You know,
not anymore.
Well, but you have to realize Notre Dame's last 3 or 4 tight ends are all starters or backups in the NFL.
You say that where it's their system as their wide receiver. Florida State's basically cornerback you, man. I mean, starting with Dion. I mean, Neon Dion. And then you've got
prime time.
You've got LaMarcus Joyner that just got drafted. You have Xavier Rhodes, who was a first-round pick by Minnesota. We just churn out.
Timmy Jernigan.
Well, I'm talking about just cornerbacks.
Just corners, yeah.
Yeah, just corners. We are churning out corners. We had, just if you look at the guys from last year, we led the league, or we led college football in interceptions. I think we had 27. There was one game we played where we forced 7 turnovers in one game, and there was like 5 of them were picks. So, I mean, I don't really know that there's a wide receiving core in the country that's going to be able to be one-dimensional. I don't know that there's a team that's going to be able to be one-dimensional and just throw the ball. They're going to have to run too. And I don't know that Oklahoma State. I don't know who their running back is. Like I said, I don't really follow Oklahoma State that much because they're in the Big 12. But
Oklahoma State hasn't really had a top-tier NFL prospect running back since Barry Sanders.
Yeah, and I think you can't be one-dimensional and just throw the ball. I mean,
so obviously we both think that Florida State is going to absolutely murder Oklahoma State.
I'm still nervous about it, and saying it makes me even more nervous. I'm one of those superstitious guys, and I think I'm going to screw myself. Yeah. So let's get into the top 5.
Absolutely.
We end every show with the top 5. I say it every single time. We love this part. Nick picked this top 5. It's the top. With the NFL coming next week, our fantasy draft is in
2 hours?
No, an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Our fantasy draft starts. So we're going to do the top 5 fantasy running backs for you.
Now, here's the thing. The reason that I picked this is because pretty much every fantasy publication has the same 5 guys in the top 5 running backs, but some are a little bit shuffled. So we're going to debate. We're going to give you both of our top 5s, and then we're going to debate what order we think the final top 5 should be.
Let me go first.
You go right ahead,
You pick the subject. So I'm going number 5, and this might surprise you. I have LaShawn McCoy at number 5.
Okay.
And the reason why I have him at number 5 is because Darren Sproles. And I think they're going to split. He's going to take away some of his numbers. I think LaShawn McCoy on the season, and I'm going stats for the average ESPN fantasy league. No, not mock draft, because I made these numbers up. I think it's just the point totals you'll get from an ESPN regular fantasy league. I think he gets 164 points. He'll have 1,100 total yards, 9 touchdowns. I think the reason why it's only 9 is because of Darren Sproles.
Points isn't really a lot.
I know.
In fantasy.
He has Darren Sproles. That's why I'm telling you, man. Let me go through my reasons, and then we'll argue at the end. He's splitting time with Darren Sproles. My number 4 is Matt Forte. Matt Forte, I think, is going to have 179 points. He'll have 1,250 total yards, 9 touchdowns. There's so much talent on that team offensively. I don't know.
Did you say 1,250 total?
Yes.
So you don't even think he's going to rush for 1,000 yards?
I think he rushes for 950, somewhere around there, right under 1,000.
You have
reason why is because their passing game is going to be off the chart.
It was like that last year.
We'll argue. Let me just do this, okay? Marshawn Lynch, 182 points. He'll get 1,100 total yards. The guy doesn't get thrown to that much, so that's going to be mainly his rushing yards. He'll have 12 TDs. He's a bruiser on offense. You'll see a lot of red zone touches. My number 2 is Jamal Charles. He'll get 208 points. 1,300 total yards, 13 TDs. They don't have a lot of wide receivers, so he's going to get some more carries. Easy enough. And number 1, I don't even know that I would put this guy at number 1 if he just wasn't such a stud. I think that I actually was leaning towards Jamal Charles more. But Adrian Peterson, he's going to be my number 1. 240 points is what I project. 1,500 total yards, 15 TDs. They don't have a QB. They're starting Matt Castle. So he's going to get the ball a lot, just like he has the last few years. As long as he can stay injury-free, I think 1,500 total yards is the most he's going to get.
And who is your number 3?
Marshawn Lynch.
So you don't even have Eddie Lacy in the top 5?
I don't have Eddie Lacy in the top 5.
Okay.
I think last year was... I think it was a great year for him, but I don't think he's going to duplicate it.
All right, my top 5, let me just say real quick, I think your total yards for both Matt Forte and Adrian Peterson is really low.
I think Adrian Peterson's going to get injured late in the year, not finish the season out. That's why I have him low. And Matt Forte, to be honest with you, I don't think he's going to catch the ball that much.
All right, well, my number 5, I have, surprisingly, as you, for the same reason, LaShawn McCoy. Darren Sproles is one of those guys that no matter how good your starter is, he's going to take touches away.
Yeah.
He's a dynamic player, and I don't have point totals. I didn't come up with point totals or anything. I have LaShawn McCoy probably getting around 1,900 total yards this year.
Okay.
And that's conservative, considering most of the fantasy reports I've been reading have him around 2,100 yards total this year. Number 4, I have Eddie Lacy from the Green Bay Packers. It's his time. He's the feature guy in that offense besides Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to hook up with Jordy Nelson, but Eddie Lacy is going to set up that whole passing game. Aaron Rodgers, before Eddie Lacy, really hasn't had a guy where he can have the run set up the pass. He's had guys in the past. His running backs have been decent, but they get injured so often that he's had a new running back every couple of weeks. With Eddie Lacy, he's going to have that bruiser that's going to go right up the gut. And I think that Eddie Lacy is going to rush for around 1,250 yards this year, and that's not even counting his passing yards. So I have him at number 4. Number 3, I have Matt Forte, who...
Hold on, so you have LaShawn McCoy getting 700 more yards than Eddie Lacy,
no, I said LaShawn McCoy's going to have 1,900 total yards, including receiving.
You think that Eddie Lacy's going to get 700 receiving yards?
No.
Or more?
I think Eddie Lacy's going to have more touchdowns.
Okay, because you didn't say your touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns.
I think Eddie Lacy's going to have
Your math is a little off.
No, it's not.
I think your math's off.
I think you should shut your mouth. This is my top 5 now.
Okay, finish it up. You're at number 2?
Number 3.
3.
Matt Forte from the Chicago Bears. Between rushing and passing, last year I believe he had around 1,950 yards last year. For you to say he's going to have 1,250 total, that's a 700-yard drop-off. And he was in the same offense as they're going to have this year. So I think Matt Forte is going to have around 1,300 yards rushing alone. And then he's going to catch 70 balls, and he's going to get about he caught 74 last year, and in that offense, and it's a new offense, and Mark Trestman loves throwing to the running back. Okay, so
you should look at the breakdown. From
I don't care
when
about
Cutler
your
went
breakdown.
out. You should look at when the Cutler went out.
Doesn't
He
matter.
started receiving more balls after Cutler left.
Anyway, so Matt Forte is number 3. Okay, number 2, I got Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles, a lot of people are picking him number 1 overall because of he does catch the ball out of the backfield, and he will get more yards that way. I have LaShawn McCoy around 2,000 yards total.
LaShawn McCoy.
I'm sorry, Jamal Charles around 2,000 yards total. He's going to get about total between rushing and receiving. I think he's going to get about 16 touchdowns this year, maybe 17. I have him at number 2. Number 1, I have to agree with you here, but for a different reason. In one of my other fantasy football leagues, I have 3 that I'm doing this year. In the third one that I have the number 1 overall pick. And the thing that put Adrian Peterson over the top for me, I'm going to be taking him number 1 overall. And the reason is because they have North Turner this year as their offensive coordinator. North Turner is the guy that made Emmitt Smith. North Turner's the guy that made LaDainian Tomlinson. Adrian Peterson's already ready-made, and he's taking over the game plan for Adrian Peterson. I think Adrian Peterson, even though some people are down on him because he's 29, I think he's going to have a monster year. I think he's going to rush for 1,800 yards this year. I think he's going to have 13 or 14 rushing touchdowns. He's not as much of a pass catcher, but that will change a little bit under North Turner. So, and not only that, I'm sorry, I don't care what rankings anybody has. It's just like when I picked the best basketball players, NBA players. LeBron James is just clear-cut better than everybody else, and that's how I feel about Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson is one of those freaks that doesn't come along very often, and even on a down year, he's going to get you 1,300 yards. So I have Adrian Peterson number 1.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I actually threw out my numbers because our fantasy draft is in an hour, and I was hoping to bring you down a little bit on some of these guys. To be 100% honest with everybody, that was complete bullshit. You're not
going to pull one over on me.
You have the pick right after me in our draft, and I was like, okay, maybe I can get him to pass up on a running back if he thinks they're going to do so shitty this year. I kind of agree with you on the numbers.
Wow, gamesmanship.
Okay, that's what this is about. We debate it. And
when you said 1,250 total yards for Matt Forte, I was like, this guy must be high.
No, I honestly was like, maybe he'll buy into this isn't the year of the running back or something like that. And then I was like, okay, he's not buying it. I might as well just fess up.
When it comes to fantasy football, listen, the last 2 years in our league, okay, I've scored the most points. I've finished in first both years. Now, my players have taken a shit in the playoffs.
He's lost to my wife and my younger brother both
in the
years.
Championship. 2 years in a row.
You didn't make the championship last year,
I did against Trevor.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you still lost to my wife 2 years ago in her first year, and Trevor, my little brother, well, he's not really little. He's
for some reason in the playoffs, my guys take a crap in the playoffs. Because you know why? Because a lot of the guys that I have are on playoff teams, and they rest them like the last couple of weeks.
Right, yeah. So, okay.
I love your little gamesmanship. I'm not mad at you at all.
I'm sorry.
I just thought you were high or something.
No, I was trying. It's just killing me because I was like, I'm going to put these on paper. And as I was doing, I was like, I wonder if he's actually going to buy this.
I study my fantasy football, man.
Oh, okay. I agree close to your yardage. I on most of the guys. I do think LaShawn McCoy, he's not going to have 1,900 yards. I think it's going to be more around 1,600 probably, somewhere around there, just because I do think Darren Sproles is going to take,
But we do agree on him being number 5.
Yeah, we agree on him being number 5. You have Matt Forte at 3.
Mm-hmm.
I have him at 4. I honestly think Marshawn Lynch is going to have a breakout year because...
See, I didn't even have Marshawn Lynch in my top 5.
Here's the reason why.
That's the one we're going to debate, is Eddie Lacy or Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting into right now. I think we move Matt Forte into the number 3 because you have him at number 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have Eddie Lacy or Marshawn Lynch on there, but Marshawn Lynch, the Seahawks are more reliant on him than the Packers are on Eddie Lacy. he's going to get a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, but who's the backup for Eddie Lacy?
Doesn't even matter.
Exactly. You can't even name him.
It doesn't even matter, though.
Eddie Lacy's going to get the bulk of the touches out of the backfield.
You don't think that might cause an injury? There's a lot of things
that could
that go
happen
into...
to Marshawn Lynch, too.
But the thing about Marshawn Lynch, this guy's been in the league for so long, he doesn't get injured. Eddie Lacy's been around for a few years.
Right.
You know, and they play in different divisions. The issue that Marshawn Lynch has is only when he comes up against San Francisco's defense.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that issue with the other two teams in his division. Whereas Eddie Lacy's going to come up against Detroit, who I think has one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. I mean, if you look at them, they have a great defensive line. He's going to come up against the Bears, who are known for having good defenses. Let's see if they can turn it around.
Their defensive line is upgraded.
Minnesota, they aren't a top-flight offensive team, but their defense is still good.
Their defense is decent.
So you look at the divisions, you know, and I think Marshawn Lynch, I think the guy has to be on there. I think Eddie Lacy has only 1 year of big fantasy stats. Marshawn Lynch has multiple years. I've had him as my fantasy running back the last 3 years.
I don't think you can fault Eddie Lacy just because he hasn't been in the league as long. As a matter of fact, I think you could give him a little bit of an edge because he doesn't have as much wear on him as Marshawn
Seattle's
Lynch.
game is the running game.
Exactly.
They're not a flying team. They don't.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Marshawn Lynch has more mileage on him than Eddie Lacy does.
But he's still putting up stats.
Oh, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I would probably put Marshawn Lynch at number 6.
You're out of your mind, man. I'm telling you. Eddie Lacy, when you have Aaron Rodgers in the backfield, you have Randall Cobb and all the guys that
Jordy Nelson,
all the guys that Aaron Rodgers has to throw to.
But here's
he
the
might
thing.
get some touches, but he's not the person they rely on to get touchdowns.
Eddie Lacy is going to get more receptions this year because they don't have Jermichael Finley anymore.
He'll get more receptions.
I mean, they still have a decent tight end, but
here's what I look at. I think Eddie Lacy will probably get more yards than Marshawn Lynch will.
But you think Lynch will get more touchdowns?
I think Lynch is going to be 15 touchdown guy. He's going to get at least 15 touchdowns. And the reason why, dude, I think I read a stat, something like they ended up with 7 passes that ended within the 3-yard line last year. Seattle did. Who are they going to give the ball to? They're not going to throw the ball. They don't have a big receiver that's going to pluck the ball out of the air. Marshawn Lynch is getting the ball.
All right, well,
I watched a game last year where Marshawn Lynch, it was first down and goal on the 4-yard line. They gave the ball to Marshawn Lynch on first down, second down, third down, and fourth down. The dude nailed it in. So, I mean, I've got to go with him for getting all those touchdowns. It's 6 points for a touchdown. It's 1 point for 10 yards.
Since you gave me Matt Forte at number 3, I'll give you Marshawn Lynch at 4.
And then we agree on Jamal Charles.
We agree on everything else. But you know what? I'm telling you, if Eddie Lacy isn't in the top 5, he's definitely number 6.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean,
I do. I'm just comparing the two. I honestly think the touchdowns are the difference.
I think this is the year. I mean, Eddie Lacy had a decent year last year, but I think now that he has a year under that system, I think he's going to progress even more. So that's the reason why I put him in the top 5.
Yeah.
But I'll give you Marshawn Lynch because he has a proven track record.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if this year Eddie Lacy comes out and puts up the same numbers as last year, I'll be a believer.
And I think he's going to put up better numbers.
I believe that he can. I really do. But Marshawn Lynch, like you said, he's got a track record. They don't really have a lot of touchdown playmaking type guys other than Percy Harvin, who doesn't seem to stay healthy. So
And I mean, when your nickname is Beast Mode.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I got to put him at number 4.
Yeah.
So our final top 5 for you folks, we have it for the top 5 NFL fantasy running backs. We have at number 5 from the Philadelphia Eagles, LaShawn McCoy. At number 4 from the Seattle Seahawks, Marshawn Lynch. At number 3 from the Chicago Bears, Matt Forte. At number 2 from the Kansas City Chiefs, Jamal Charles. And at number 1 on our page and in your hearts, from the Minnesota Vikings, Adrian Peterson, AP. And I gotta say, Adrian Peterson will forever be in my top 5 just because of the episode that he did of The League where he slept with the guy's ex-girlfriend. That was phenomenal. Adrian Peterson scored so many points for me. If you've never watched The League, folks, watch The League. It is one of the greatest shows on television, and if you love fantasy football, you'll love it even more.
20 years from now when he's 49, you'll be your number 5 running back.
He'll be number 5 forever.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Nole and Deep Dish Show. Like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter
@NDD Sports Show. Everybody have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
Happy football.